Hey everybody, Sarah Taylor here. I'm Diamond Ambassador with Plexus, and I wanted to welcome you guys to our call tonight. We're continuing on our Why Plexus series, and this one's a really big one. This is one that probably almost every single person within Plexus has dealt with at least a little bit, whether it's been with themselves or with somebody that they know. It's called Candida Die Off. And basically, what that is every single person in the world has candida in their system. Its biological purpose is to help decompose your body when you pass away. So it's not the fact that all of us have it that is the problem, but it's the fact that it gets overgrown and that it has an overabundance in our digestive tract, in our gut, everything. And when that happens, it tends to cause a lot of issues. And so that's why with Plexus, we're trying to get it at bay, kind of take control of that war going on in your gut, and give you guys the tools to kind of fight it off. But what happens when we end up going to war in our gut and start killing off that candida is a situation called die off. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. There's a lot of things that come along with die off. There's some issues, there's some symptoms that you might notice, some unpleasant symptoms. But at the end of the day, the thing to always remember is that this is why you're here. You are here for the end result. You're here for a bettering of your life and your health. And to get through that, sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. And I know I can speak for myself that I did go through a die-off with Plexus, with the ProBio 5 and the BioCleanse. I was actually diagnosed with a dysbiosis in my gut at the age of 17. Long before, that was 17 years ago for any of you that are counting, I'm 34. Long before anybody was really talking about gut health, I walked to the doctor's office one day with over 100 canker sores in my mouth. Turned out I had taken a antibiotic, a very strong round, and that is what had ended up happening. That was the culmination of everything through my childhood. One round of antibiotics ended up just being the thing that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So I ended up getting on prescription probiotics, probiotic mouthwashes, a whole slew of things, and ended up dealing with it for the next 13 years. I've been with Plexus for 4 years now, and it's been the first thing that I found that's actually been able to help with my gut issues and actually been able to leave me canker sore free for the last 4 years. I've literally had one canker sore after a trip to Mexico where I wasn't necessarily eating and doing the things that, we normally, the healthiest of things. I'll just put it that way. So one of the things that we want to help you guys understand tonight is why it happens, what's happening in your body, what's going on in there, and what to expect. But then also we want to help you guys understand that you can help mitigate the symptoms. You can help ease yourself through die off. It doesn't have to be a brutal process, but for some people it is, because you're undoing damage and helping repair a gut that's been damaged over years and years and years. In my case, it was 31 years. So that's a big deal. So I'm going to turn it over to Cameron, and she's going to walk us through that right now. Cameron, are you there?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me. It's always such an interesting thing diving back into Candida research because it's a crazy, crazy thing. And before we can understand die-off, we need to understand really what is Candida and how truly evil it is. Candida is a yeast, and what is a yeast? It's a fungus, just like a mushroom or something else, just a type of organism. It's a fungus. There's good and bad fungus there, of course. We've got mushrooms, those are great. And there's different things that we don't really think of yeast-based. How do you make kombucha? It's with yeast. How do you make beer? That's with yeast. How do you make bread? That's with yeast. Did you know vinegar is yeast? And for the most of us, it's okay to consume these things because we don't have a Candida problem. But for people with Candida issues, these are the things we have to watch because yeast is in a lot of different things. So as Sarah said, we have yeast in our bodies to decompose us when we die. And it's primarily in our kind of more moist organ areas, our mucous membranes. And that's why when you think of yeast, everybody thinks women, oh, you have to do, women have this. But think about it. Yeast, when you have a yeast infection, it's a yeast overgrowth, and that abundance of yeast causes all those horrible symptoms and the fire down there. So, if you really think about it, think about a yeast infection of your GI tract. That's what we have now. Think about the overgrowth, what it does there, how horrible it is to be a woman and get imagine that in your GI tract. So that's what a yeast overgrowth is. And yeast and Candida, it's an opportunistic organism, meaning if you have something kind of going wrong in your system, you're under stress, you've gotten a round of antibiotics, grief, just bad diets, things like that. When you have a dip, this is when this organism's saying, oh, heck yes, this is time for me to go. For me, my realization of how powerful Candida was, 2 days out of surgery, 2 days on antibiotics in the hospital, went from a normal person tongue to a completely white one. That's how fast in the hospital Candida came back that quickly. It's really, really crazy. If you think about it as a woman, we might be used to when you have if you've been given a round of antibiotics, they also give you an antifungal because you're killing off everything. And like we know in our garden, when everything's being killed off, what comes back first? It's the weeds. It's the opportunistic organisms. And if you have an overgrowth, this is when people have different symptoms like gas, bloating, fatigue. You have a weakened predisposition to different things. Like I too had canker sores, and so did my dad. And I'm genetically predispositioned to those. So since Candida has weakened my immune system, that's how I manifest those symptoms. So that's why not everybody's like, well, I don't have canker sores, so I don't have Candida. No, we have all different symptoms that we see. So much is caused by Candida. And I highly encourage you to type research about symptoms of Candida overgrowth, anywhere from mental fog to low sex drive to weakened immune. In fact, if you Google Shamu, killer whale, Candida, there was a whale that was recently, that in the last couple of years passed away because of Candida overgrowth. So the fungus, it's okay to have that yeast, that fungus in our system. But as things happen, these organisms, these microorganisms can colonize together, and they come together and they start growing. And the outside of a Candida shell is called, there's a substance called chitin in it, and chitin needs glucose to build itself. So that's why we get those sugar cravings, because as this colony is like, hey, we're forming these intricate, I think about ants and the intricate colonies have. That's what Candida is doing in our gut system. I'm going to show you some pictures in a little bit and you'll get an understanding. And so it's saying, oh, we need some sugar because this chitin shell is like, in order for us to have building blocks to make this big colony, we're going to need some more sugar. Let's call for some more sugar. This organism can let off things that make you crave sugar. It's insane. I know when I was going through Die Off myself and my sponsor kept telling me, oh, that's Die Off. And I was like, and I Google it and I'd be like, dang. And you started really realizing that this is really, as Lori Harrison would say, the fungus is among us. This is a true deal. So as these colonies form in our gut lining or anywhere in our body, but we're talking mostly the gut health right now, they will build and build and build and grow together. And as they get more powerful, they grow these arms that they'll start depleting nutrients. They need iron, they need vitamins. They're building their colony, and then they're opportunistic. They're the weeds. They are powerful. So they're very, really hard to treat. And especially they're we hear about antibiotic resistance. People that constantly take diflucan or some sort of prescription antifungal, your body, you might decrease in symptoms right away, but 3 days later it revs up even higher because it becomes resistant. And so it's this delicate balance with Candida. It's a very, very serious thing. So as these colonies grow, it can also start producing biofilm, which is basically like, think of a dome. What was that movie, The Dome, Biodome, where it's just putting an ozone layer or like a protective film around this. We're really, really wanting to protect this. This is a very, very, very powerful organism. So that's what you're dealing with. And, I talk to a lot of my people as they're signing on. I don't know what kind of yeast overgrowth you have. We won't know if you have sort of some or if you have a major one until you start getting into it. And it could take a couple of weeks. Some people go through Die Off with 1 probio 5, and some people need to be on 4 for a few weeks because there's, as you'll see in the pictures, there's a complex thing going on. And that's, I've always called it delayed Die Off. So what if you have a lot of biofilm? It's having to work through all that stuff before it can get through the Candida itself. So we don't know what level of overgrowth you have. And again, it steals nutrients. So your body is all kinds of out of whack with Candida. So it's essential to get in there and really understand the process of this. So before we go into the process of Die Off, I'm gonna share my screen. If you are eating something, maybe stop. I don't know. Let's see here. It's not too bad. I try to be better. So let me. I never can remember how to play the slides, but this is fine. So you can see here, look at this. This right here is just kind of starting to colonize right here. The yeast is just kind of starting to grow in the GI tract. And then look at this as it keeps growing more and more and more and more. And then this is under a microscope. Look at these arms right here growing and doing all that. Look at them all getting protected and colonizing in your GI tract. So you can kind of see how powerful this is. And then I like this slide because you can see, like, this is okay. Having a little yeast cell, we have yeast cells, it's fine. But let's see, something's going on with our gut flora, some sort of stressors, something's making our gut lining not great, as we've talked about, and then they can start colonizing like this. And look at this, they find holes. So if you have leaky gut and things like that, these arms can grow in and find these holes into your gut lining. They can attach. These are your immune system cells. This is what's fighting your immune system. So look at it attaching to your immune system. So no wonder you feel like crap when you have Candida. How can that not affect your sex drive and your sleep and your cravings and things like that? And then it just lets off in the bloodstream, hey, I need some more sugar. Isn't that crazy? I mean, look at this under a microscope. Just, you can see here, this is the colonization, and then this is where those arms start forming, and they become crazy. They can invade your immune cells, your white blood cells, they can invade host tissue. They're starting to require nutrients. And then that last step is biofilm. Look at this. So look at this protective film that comes around it saying, yep, we want to protect this colony, we're protecting the colony, we're protecting the colony. So this is some serious stuff that can happen, guys. And it's so gross and so cool at the same time. So you get an understanding. This tonight has really helped me understand even more that there's a process with die-off. If you have those colonies of biofilm, you might not actually get into the Candida for a little bit of time. We might have to make some changes there. So when you go through die-off, what you need to do is, first of all, remove that sugar, because you don't want to give the building blocks and the fuel and the gasoline that Candida needs to build these colonies. You need to take that away so you can starve it from growing more and then not feed the beast. And when this organism is mad, it's going to be trying even more to grow and fight itself. That's what's crazy about it. I know this is crazy. You can Google it. This is some stuff, and we're going to be seeing more and more research. And so if you have this biofilm, you've got to attack and get rid of the biofilm. And so that's what I really love about the ProBio 5. We talk a lot about the chitnase, the one that breaks into the Candida, but serrapeptase, which is in the ProBio 5, one of the enzymes, as well as EASE, is shown to help break down biofilm. So EASE is such a great thing to have people help if they're going through die-off, because we need to get that biofilm out and break down so you can actually get to the colony itself and get to the yeast cells. So once you deal with that biofilm, whether we don't know if you have it or not, that's just like if you're having a tough time through die-off, hey, look back at these pictures and think about what's going on in your gut. So then you need to get in there and you need to treat the Candida with that chitnase, that enzyme that's going to break down that cellular wall. And then we have grapeseed extract in our ProBio 5, which goes in there. It's an antifungal and it kills it further. So as you're doing that, Candida does not want to die. It's an opportunistic organism. It's trying to protect itself. It wants to grow. It can kill a killer well. We're learning more and more and more about this. The FDA doesn't want to talk about Candida because it's being more and more researched, because it's pretty hard to manage. It's such a different way of thinking, because chemical treatments aren't working to this because they become so antibiotic resistant. And so when Candida is growing, it will let stuff off into your bloodstream, like, I'm going to say this correctly, acetylhalide. It's a neurotoxin that when it will let off and that's when you get the fatigue and the headaches and the sugar cravings and things like that. And this is the same byproduct as alcohol. So think about a hangover. When you have a hangover, it's because you have an overabundance of that stuck in your liver, not being processed because you're out of the enzymes that are breaking it down, and your liver is closed off. So just like a hangover, Candida Die Off can cause some symptoms that are not going to feel pleasant and magnify what you're feeling. We've seen joint pain, headaches. I had green poop, like neon green poop. Yeah, you don't. So like just anything, you can almost Google anything in Candida Die Off and it makes sense. You can get rashes. It's just your body is freaking out because it has to detach from the immune cells. and then it's got to get rid of the hyphae. It's got to get all that stuff out of the system and flushed out. So it doesn't want to die, and it's letting off these neurotoxins. So die-off happens sometimes because there's an overabundance, or your liver a lot of times just can't handle anymore. So that's why we like to go slowly. And for you to understand as you're going through this process, it's very important to go to the person that signed you up, or go to the team page and saying, I'm going through a lot of die-off, and maybe you're on 3, and maybe your body just needs to stay at 1 probiotic for a week or 2, just to kind of let that liver open up. Sarah will talk a little bit more about die-off and what to do in managing it, but it's very important to work, because everybody's die-off is going to be different. Some people might be able to go in there and blast those with 4 probiotics for a week and get rid of it. And some people might need to slowly process and get rid of the biofilm, and then work on the colony, and then get rid of stuff as the liver is processing things. And yeah, so as you can see, Candida is a very, very crazy thing, and it's a powerful organism, and it's letting off chemicals into your system as you speak, and then getting rid of it is magnifying those symptoms, because you're killing it, so it's letting everything off, and it doesn't want to die. I mean, we think about that blue planet or planet Earth, or something we see, some weird insect or whatever's going on, these weird parasites and these different fungus and things that have all these powerful things to take over. This is what it's trying to do, because it's a very opportunistic organism, and it takes time. You've got to remove stuff to go through die-off, and you've really got to get on that bio cleanse, and you've got to think about your diet, and keep going, and really talk to us, because possibly it might be that we need to switch some stuff around while we're working on the biofilm on the colonies before we can actually get to the colonies. Maybe you do need ease for die-off. And I'm going to end with this fact. Research is just now beginning. They're studying the amount of chemicals and things like that in the people with Parkinson's. We've talked a lot about gut health and Parkinson's. Well, they're thinking that Candida could be one of the major triggers of Parkinson's, because they measured the amount of that acetaldehyde in their blood system, and it's elevated very, very high because of Candida. So we're seeing research, all the stuff we've been talking about in these series, from diabetes to PCOS, everything. Candida is being researched as something that is exacerbating it, or making it worse, or maybe triggering it, and causing these symptoms. So do your research, keep watching this, because it's going to be a bigger and bigger and bigger topic, because with the amount of sugars that are in everything, the amount of antibiotics that are in everything, the amount of stress we go under, the amount of processed foods we have, we all have Candida issues. And the ProBio 5 is incredible. And Sarah will talk to you about how it's designed to really do that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much, Cameron. And I just want to reiterate the point that, as we're going through die-off, I want you guys to kind of imagine your gut filled with those, she showed that picture, and imagine your gut filled with a bunch of little teeny balloons. And as each one of those balloons pops, it's going to release gases into your system. And those gases, the overabundance of gases and that release, is actually what is causing those die-off symptoms to get worse and worse and worse, because those gases are already in there as the Candida is in there living and reproducing and everything like that. But as it dies off, the bursts make it worse, okay? I thought that was a really good kind of explanation of what's kind of happening in there. The other thing is, as we start to take the ProBio 5 and the Bio Cleanse, and we're taking the ProBio 5 and we're starting to go through die-off, and maybe you're going through a little bit worse round of die-off than you would like, okay? So let's talk about some symptoms of die-off that are common: headaches, bloating, gas, changes in bowel issues, nausea, extreme fatigue, an extra yeast infection, maybe more canker sores, any sort of thing that was already in your system, that was already producing signs of your Candida, is going to get worse through die-off before it gets better. And so that's always the thing to realize, that a lot of people think, okay, well, my sugar cravings are getting worse. I thought that Plexus was supposed to help them. It's because you're going through die-off, and those gases are getting released out into your system, and you realize, and your body's just kind of, and it's making the Candida symptoms that were already there even worse as you're starting to go through that. So the way to kind of think about the relationship between the Slim, the ProBio 5, and the Bio Cleanse: the Slim has a prebiotic in it that feeds only the good bacteria. The ProBio 5 has the chitosanase in there that goes in there, it breaks down the outer cell wall of the Candida cell, and it breaks it in and starts to kill it off, right? But you guys remember, the primary purpose of what Candida does is to decompose dead matter. So if you've got all these dead Candida cells in there, it creates this little cycle in and of itself. You've got to remove that out of there. So two things are going to help you remove that out of there. Your BioCleanse, which is extremely efficient and safe and effective for removing those dead Candida cells out of there. The other thing is water. You've got to drink your water. If you are skimping on your water, especially during die-off, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are making it so much more difficult for your body to just expel all of those toxins and all of those things back out, okay? So one of the things, anytime anybody comes to me with die-off and issues and those types of symptoms and that we can easily trace back to what's happening, I'm going to reduce their ProBio5 if I can. If they're at 4 ProBio5 or 3 or 2 or something like that, I'm going to reduce it. If they're just at 1, I'm just going to increase the BioCleanse. But that's the balance, because if you're starting to go through die-off, number 1, drink the water. Number two, avoid foods that are going to be feeding the die-off, or feeding the Candida, excuse me. So sugars, breads, alcohol, anything along those lines, you want to avoid those. You want to try and avoid antibiotics if you can. If you can't, that's part of it. But if you can, you want to avoid that and steroids as well, because both of those things really disrupt your gut health, and you want to avoid fake sugars. Fake sugars are like an atom bomb going into your gut and killing off all the good bacteria, okay? So the Slim then has the prebiotics that feed only the good bacteria, so that's helping you kind of win that war. But that balance between the ProBio5 and the BioCleanse is something that we can really play around with, and that's something that you want to talk to your sponsor about to help you through. Because faster isn't always better with die-off, you guys, because there are actual physiological processes that Cameron just went through that your body is going through, and if you force it through too fast, it can have negative health consequences. And that's not to say that there's not going to be any discomfort in your die-off process, but easing yourself through that is the best bet. So don't just think, okay, my body can handle it, I'm just going to go, full force, I'm going to take no BioCleanse, and I'm going to go 5 ProBio5 or something crazy like that. Don't do that. Work the system, okay? Start getting yourself eliminating first, getting yourself pooping, getting yourself, eliminating at least once a day, and then add the ProBio5 in and watch your symptoms. Pay attention to your body. If it's stuff you can manage, like increased sugar cravings, go with it, guys. Don't automatically pull back and say, okay, no, I can't deal with that. You can deal with increased sugar cravings. Just say no, right? They kind of stink and they're hard and it's an internal battle, but you have control over that. If you are getting migraines that are debilitating and those sort of things, that's something that we need to help you with and help kind of pull that back and kind of help walk you through the die-off process. But the one thing to remember with all of this is a necessary part. This is the last war that you're going to have to face, and that's at the end of the road, there is relief. And you're going to feel better, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have all the relief from all the Candida symptoms that you've been dealing with, and it's all going to be worth it. I am somebody that went through really bad die-off, like I said, and I'm here to tell you 4 years later, it was absolutely worth it, because there are major health implications that are going to come from this for years and years and years to come, that are going to make a little time period worth it. Now, let's talk time periods. Time through die-off is different for every single person for the reasons that Cameron mentioned. Not every person is going to go through die-off in 4 days or 2 weeks or a month. It's going to be very different for every person, and when it hits is also going to be very different. Most people do start relatively quickly after starting the products, but some people don't. And another key to remember too is if you start eating poorly again, you go on vacation, you go through the holidays, chances are you're going to have to re-go through a little bit of die-off as well. And the last point I'm going to make before I let you guys go is, okay, I'll let Cameron talk in a second too, is that Candida can go dormant. So once it feels like it has lost the battle a little bit, it will stop. It will stop the battle, and it will regroup, and it will just sit there dormant for a while until suddenly it decides that it wants to start fighting again. And that can happen. So you can go through different waves of die off. Okay, guys. So just I only mention that because once you've gone through die off once, doesn't mean that that's the end. It's not going to be as bad the next times, more than likely, but it could come back again. You could have another bout. You could have some more yeast infections and things like that. Just know when those types of things happens that you follow the same protocol at handling die off as you did the first time around. Cameron, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just a few things. First of all, one thing to think about, especially in the weight loss, or if you're coming to Plexus to get some relief of symptoms for one of the other things we've talked about, think about some of the pictures we thought and what it's been, all this colonization on your gut lining. So think about after you rip out all the weeds, when you go into a garden, what does the soil look like underneath there? So that's even more people that are experiencing with Candida. Can you imagine what your gut linings look like, how inflamed it is, how it doesn't feel good? Think about what we just said, how that the Candida can draw in nutrients and say, if the colony's like, no, we're getting these vitamins and minerals. So think about what your garden looks like after you've gone through die off and the essential need to allow time for the gut lining to heal and for allow time and to put nutrients back in. That's why we talk so much about vitamins and minerals instead of jumping to accelerator. It's like, no, let's give your body, we need to repair your body. And Candida, if it can possibly be a precursor or something that might be going into Parkinson's, think about just how powerful it is. Another couple of things with die off that is great is taking an Epsom salt bath. Epsom salt is like a magnesium. It can pull toxins out, and then it's essential to go on walks, jogs, runs, anything, because movement moves toxins. And so you have to understand the powerful thing going on in you, and this is a lifestyle change. What I love about Plexus is I've had a lot of people that have come to me that have had major Candida that have had to go through these crazy chemical die-offs and completely lifestyle change it. And they have no way, like they can't go on vacation and maybe have a milkshake for breakfast. No, they can't do it. They cannot do it. They are so predispositioned. But I love that I can have people come in here who have been through that. They can have a little bit more of a normal life, because who doesn't want to go on vacation, have a glass of wine and a tiramisu? This girl does. So what I love is that we have the ability, when I go out of town, I increase my probiotics. I know I'm not doing great. I might take 4 at night and 1 in the morning, or maybe 1 in the afternoon. If I've had a lunch where I've had, some brunch and stuff, I might take 1 in the afternoon. I keep them in my purse when I'm traveling, because you just never know when you just need to kind of like, let's start breaking down some stuff. Because it's a continuous process. And I've gone through die off a few times in my Plexus journey because of different things. And it's just because that's the way it is. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we really suggest the Triplex and the X Factor to start out with, because that X Factor is really going to help you heal your gut. And with everything that Cameron was saying, and your gut's the way that your body absorbs nutrients. So it's just a really good idea to couple those two together. And then the E's as well. The detox baths are something that saved me. Look them up. Look up detox baths. It's not hard. They're all over the internet. It's Epsom salts and a couple other things, or just Epsom salt. And that's going to help you guys so much if you're going through die off and detox. So it's the water. Be consistent on your products, pay attention to your food, and pay attention to your body. Don't feed that Candida, and then taking a look at the detox baths as well, and trying to move. Get out there and move. All right, Cameron, were you about to say something else?
I just wanted to add, because I've struggled so much with Candida, that I've learned that since I'm predispositioned to it, if you look up antifungals, like for example, vinegar, you don't realize that vinegar is made from, I don't drink kombucha anymore. I rarely drink a beer if I have to manage a bit, because if you suffer from Candida, you are primed for this. And then same thing with, I try to cook with it, like coconut oil is a natural antifungal, so I use that a lot. Oregano is an antifungal, so I just want to we have such great enzymes and antifungals, but it is so powerful. I want to make sure and attack it from different angles, and to use Plexus as my tool, as well as my diet and exercise.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, it's 8:30, so we're going to go ahead and let you go, but I love this topic, and if you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask, because this is a really important topic and a really important understanding of what's going on in your body when you're going through this. So we hope that we are able to help you guys, and we will see you guys on next Monday. We're not going to have a call on Wednesday like we normally would, because it is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.